Tonight, massive floods again threaten traumatised Queenslanders.
There will be people who are facing their second or third flood in a 2-year period.
Incredible scenes on the Gold Coast as wild seas whip up a foam storm. WA Labor ends the phony election campaign 6 weeks out from polling day. And a night out ends in tragedy for hundreds of young revellers in Brazil. Good evening, James McHale with ABC News. Queensland is again in the grip of a massive and deadly flood emergency. 3 people are confirmed dead and dozens more have been rescued from raging floodwaters sweeping across central and southeast Queensland. Hundreds of homes and businesses are tonight underwater with thousands of people taking shelter. The greatest concern is in Bundaberg, where 2,000 homes have already gone under. Mandatory evacuations have been ordered, with the Burnett River expected to keep rising. The body of an 81-year-old man was recovered from the floodwaters. Further south in Gympie, a 27-year-old man died while crossing a flooded creek. The town is cut off with water levels already higher than the major flood of 2011. Ipswich, west of Brisbane, is facing a difficult night with the Bremer River peaking. 700 homes and businesses are at risk. Further west in the Lockyer Valley, they're expecting flood levels higher than 2 years ago when 19 people died. In Brisbane, residents are moving to higher ground. 5,000 homes and businesses are expected to be swamped when the Brisbane River peaks tomorrow. One man was killed after his motorcycle was swept off a bridge. The Queensland Premier is calling the situation in Bundaberg grave and unprecedented, with the Burnett River at record levels and still rising. A mandatory evacuation of North Bundaberg has been ordered, and civilian and army helicopter crews have worked throughout the afternoon to airlift hundreds of people to safety. There is also a real danger that homes will be swept away in the fast-flowing waters. Reporter Karen Binney is there.
The raging Burnett River is
Southeast Queensland residents, still scarred by the devastating 2011 floods, are enduring another traumatic flood crisis. Thousands of homes and businesses across Brisbane and Ipswich are at risk of flood damage, and already parts of the capital have been affected. In the Lockyer Valley, the town of Laidley has been swamped by a flood, which some say is bigger than the disaster 2 years ago.
There were scenes reminiscent of some of Queensland's darkest days. 2 years on, Lockyer Valley residents had...
and howling winds have wreaked havoc on the Gold Coast. The coastline was battered by huge seas which gouged sand dunes and damaged beachfront buildings.
Despite the warnings, many Gold Coast residents just couldn't stay indoors.
The flood emergency is spreading to northern New South Wales. Torrential downpours in the past 72 hours have seen more than 800 millimetres of rainfall in some areas. Several communities have already been cut off by rising floodwaters, and homes and businesses are likely to be inundated overnight.
Lucy Carter, ABC News, Grafton.
The opposition leader Mark McGowan has got in early and launched Labor's election campaign 40 days out from polling day. Mr McGowan declared the election will be a referendum on priorities, saying the Premier Colin Barnett is out of touch.
Mark McGowan was flanked by his family.
News.
2 new parks will be created to protect the world-famous horizontal falls in the Kimberley. The Premier announced the marine and national questions about the proposed development at James Price Point. The coroner today visited the Big Day Out concert as part of his inquiry into the death of Perth teenager Gemma Toms. Dominic Mulligan spent nearly 3 hours at the music festival to see firsthand how the event is run.
For the past week,
Police are hoping security vision of an explosion at the Harbour Town shopping centre in West Perth will provide clues to the identity of the offenders. Cameras captured the moment a massive blast rattled the... Turning overseas, more than 230 people have died in a nightclub fire in Brazil after a band apparently let off fireworks on stage. It's the deadliest nightclub blaze in more than a decade. North America correspondent Jane Cowan reports.
ABC, Saturday night.
A state of emergency has been declared in 3 Egyptian cities where more than 50 people have been killed in rioting over the last 4 days. The unrest was sparked by death sentences passed on 21 soccer French-led troops in Mali are closing in on the ancient city of Timbuktu in their offensive against Islamic militants linked to Al-Qaeda. African and French soldiers say thousands of supporters of gay marriage have taken to the streets of Paris. The French government is set to debate a bill this week that would legalise marriage and adoption for same-sex couples. Europe correspondent Rachel Brown reports.
Thousands of people have marched through London.
The Australian film producer Patricia Lovell has died at the age of 83. She was best known to TV audiences as Mr. Squiggles' friend. Sport and rain has just interrupted Australia's run chase in tonight's 2020 International against Sri Lanka. Australia had the tourists struggling
with plenty of work to do. Blake Kagi, ABC News.
The world's #1 ranked tennis player Novak Djokovic has left the country with another Australian Open title. He prevailed over Andy Murray in 4 sets last night. It was Djokovic's third. Perth Glory's battle to reach the A-League finals is set to get even more difficult after the club released defender Bas van den Brink. The Glory agreed to Van den Brink's request to have his contract terminated so he can explore other opportunities. A club statement says the defender has an opportunity to move. Before we get to the weather, fire crews are battling blazes in the northeastern part of Carnarvon and just south of Busselton. So if you're in or near one of those areas, listen to ABC Local Radio for updates. Today's weather, Perth's minimum was 16.8 at 6:08 this morning, rising to 32.5 just before 4 p.m. The current temperature is 30 and humidity is 18%. Elsewhere south, it was a generally sunny day apart from some light drizzle over areas of the southeast. 8 degrees throughout the outlook period, looking at a hot 38 degrees over the weekend. Now recapping our top stories. Queensland is again in the grip of a massive and deadly flood emergency. 3 people are confirmed dead and dozens more have been rescued from raging floodwaters sweeping across central and southeast Queensland. The opposition leader Mark McGowan has got in early and launched Labor's election campaign 40 days out from the polling day. And more than 230 people have died in a nightclub fire in Brazil. Most of the victims were university students who died of smoke inhalation. And that's ABC News for now. For news at any time, go to our website or follow us on Twitter at ABC News Perth. Thanks for your company, take care and good night.